So who's gonna go?
One second. We'll be right with you guys. Just getting everything set up. If you can hear us, please press 1. Please press 1 if you can't hear us. There's a slight delay, so please press 1 if you can hear us. Good afternoon, Credit 360 here.
Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Wednesday, hump day to everybody.
Good afternoon, Credit 360 here.
Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Wednesday, hump day to everybody.
All right, what we're doing today, we're doing a live Q&A. Pretty much going to answer any questions that you viewers have regarding personal credit, business credit. Over the last, actually, 3 segments, we've been pretty much going over personal credit, business credit, some of the aspects you need to do to actually get your personal credit in line. We talked about utilization ratio, payment history, length of credit history, types of credit, the frequency of new credit, which is inquiries. We pretty much broke down everything that needs to be done to possibly get an 850 credit score. And we're just opening up the forum up today for you guys to figure out exactly what credit questions or concerns you have, how we can address those pretty much concerns, and what we can do to help you get your credit back on track.
Also, any questions as it relates to last week's video, business credit, how to start a business, things to look for when you're creating a business credit profile, the bureaus themselves as it relates to business credit, what is a business credit score? So all of those, any of the questions or any questions as it relates to any of the videos that we've posted so far, please feel free to drop us a line and let us get you on the right track.
All right. So again, if you guys have any difficulties during this actual live video, please press 2 for us if you have problems hearing us, or if you hear anything that's a little bit off during this session, please press 2 so we can make those adjustments and make sure we're getting everything in crystal clear quality for you guys. All right. Throughout your credit questions, I know you guys have some credit questions or concerns. I have people call my office or call our office on a daily basis asking some of the simple questions. We want to actually put this out on an open platform. Why? Because we want to change lives. At the end of the day, we're the credit repair company that we do care about our community. We do care about the people who are actually support our business. And the only way we can kind of give back is to kind of just pour some of the knowledge, some of the things that we normally possibly charge for into you guys. Just to let you know that, hey, we care, all right? We care.
I don't know about you. I know a lot of times I'm somewhere and I can't tell you how many times someone sees a shirt and they're like, I have some credit questions, or I have, some concerns about my credit. So now is the time to please leave a question and let us get you to a better position. Ultimately, like Andre said, we're here to, help you increase your credit, help you get into a better position. So please, the questions are very vital for us.
All right, cool.
We got one already?
Yeah, I see a question from Barry.
Barry asks, are CPN numbers legal?
Okay, good question. Barry asked, are CPN numbers legal? Coming off he gave me a tough question off the back. All right.
Right.
All right, CPNs. All right, I'm gonna lean towards the side of saying they're illegal. Okay. CPNs. They wind up being illegal because a lot of times when you are, how can I explain this? A CPN is like having a secondary social security number. You'll hear some entities or some businesses or some individuals say that a CPN is legal. You will have some entities saying that it's illegal. When we're talking about CPNs, I tell the average person you probably want to stay away from a CPN. A lot of times individuals are trying to use a CPN to try to correct or try to, get around an original credit issue that's taking place, and they're trying to get a secondary Social Security number. The problem with that is whenever you try to state income or you state anything, because a CPN is going to have your name, your date of birth, but possibly a different Social Security number, different address, and all that information. So you're actually almost somewhat cloning yourself and creating a credit identity with that clone. The problem is when you fill out a credit application and they ask you for that income information, you're actually putting the income information for the real you, not the cloned you. So what's happening is when you're giving them that real information of what your real true annual income is, because that cloned or that CPN Social Security number has no income attached to it. So you wind up putting yourself in a position where you're possibly committing fraud, all right? So long story short, I would tell most individuals just stay away from CPNs. Most of the stories that we hear about them are horror stories. I have heard some people who have, skated through the realms of using a CPN, but overall I would tell you to stay away from a CPN, all right? But good question, appreciate it. Any other questions? No? Okay, all right.
Also, just to piggyback on the CPN, since we're there, keep in mind, the CPN is, like you said, it's another 9-digit number. But what happens for most people, they begin to merge the information. When you're talking about CPN, you really want to you want to understand. You, like Andre said, you cloned yourself, and so if you cloned yourself, even though you may look identical, keep in mind this is still a new you. And what happens is you begin to apply for credit. The profiles begin to merge, and it makes even more of a messy situation. So now you have more credit problems than you did originally. So again, it is not a good idea. So we'll lean on the side of safety. All right. You have another?
All right. We have a question from Cassandra Stewart. I'm in the process of fixing my credit. I've purchased a car and still making payments. If I decide that I no longer want the car and return the car, still making the payments, will it hurt my credit?
Yes, most definitely it's going to hurt your credit. And keep in mind, I don't know, I've been doing credit repair for a while. I don't know too many individuals who turn back a car and for a duration of time will continue to make the payments on a vehicle that they're no longer driving. It sounds good in most cases up front, but to try to live that life, the average person doesn't have the resources to put up that money towards something that's really not benefiting them in the present. It's actually going towards a mistake that they've made in the past. All right, so there's two different types of repossessions. There's a voluntary and involuntary. A lot of times, a lot of our clients, a lot of customers come in and they say, hey, you know what? I have an involuntary repossession, and they feel because it's involuntary that at the end of the day that it creates a better light or a worse light than a voluntary. So voluntary means, hey, you know what? I bought a car from Trevor's car lot. I can't afford the payment, and I voluntarily give my car back to Trevor, okay? But keep in mind, just because I give it back to Trevor, because I agreed to it, doesn't mean Trevor necessarily wants that car back. Remember, Trevor gave me that car, or he sold me that vehicle, or he loaned or financed that vehicle for financial gain. He didn't give me this vehicle for a short period of time because most likely we had an agreement. It had been a 3-year contract, 4-year contract, 5-year agreement, whatever it may be. There's a duration of time. So Trevor, in order to completely revenue or to make the most financial gain, he needs me to complete that full contract to be able to make the most money as possible. So by me voluntarily giving him the car back, even though he has the vehicle, believe me, I'm not putting Trevor in a better position. And a lot of times clients come into our office saying, hey, you know what, I gave them the car back. They should be happy that they got the vehicle, all right? So the example I like to give, that's like you were in a relationship with someone, right? And then they come to you and they say, you know what, they don't want this relationship no more. It's not because of you, it's because of them. You don't care the simple fact that because they're saying it's them, you just know that they're breaking the agreement of what you guys originally had when you started that relationship. To respect each other, to be there for each other, and so on. Now this person's throwing this curveball and saying, hey, you know what? It's not that I want to be with somebody else. I just don't want to be with you. Right. That doesn't make it feel any better. At the end of the day, as far as you know, it's a broken relationship. The same way Trevor knows if he were the car dealership and I voluntarily gave him that vehicle, it would be a broken relationship.
Okay? Regardless of what the terms are.
All right. Involuntary is okay when I don't pay Trevor and Trevor has to send his tow truck to come get his car out my yard. All right. There is no difference between the two from a credit scoring standpoint between voluntary and involuntary. A broken agreement is a broken agreement. The same way a divorce is a divorce, whether someone cheats on someone, or a divorce is a divorce, whether someone says, hey, I just don't want to be with you anymore. All right. They both have the same effect in the relationship. All right. So that's the difference between a voluntary and involuntary. But keep in mind, just one quick caveat when you do have a repossession. So let's say I got a car from Trevor's car lot, right? Trevor, I financed $10,000 on this vehicle with Trevor. When Trevor repossessed the vehicle, or let's say we had an involuntary repossession, he picked up the vehicle out of from my yard. I owed $10,000 on the vehicle. Trevor took that vehicle and he sold it because now he's a car dealer. He sold it on the auction block, all right? Let's say Trevor sold that vehicle for $3,000. That $3,000 that Trevor actually made from that vehicle, he has to deduct from the $10,000 balance that I originally owed, okay? That's very important to know because a lot of times people, when they have repossessions, they don't realize that the deficiency balance from that vehicle actually has to be deducted from the amount, from that repossession amount, all right? Which can kind of be that leeway to help you put you in position to possibly get something, settled on your report, or put yourself in position to possibly get it removed off your report, or have some type of payment agreement to be able to kind of, cure that mistake that you've made in the past. All right?
All right. Next question comes from Barry. Can a closed credit card that you owe on be deleted off your credit report?
Okay. Can a closed credit card that you owe on be deleted off your credit report? Yeah, we do it all the time. Actually, when creditors have information in your credit report, there's 3 check marks or 3 benchmarks they have to hit in order for that information to be legally put on your credit report. Number 1 has to be accurate. The information has to be accurate. Number 2, it has to be reported in a timely fashion. And number 3, it has to be verifiable. All right. If that information is missing any one of those elements, even though you owe the debt, it gives you grounds to have that information removed off your credit report per the Fair Credit Reporting Act. Okay.
Well, also keep in mind as far as the debt itself, you can remove the debt. I mean, the debt itself can't be removed. You can remove the reporting of the debt, but ultimately, I'm sorry. If you can't hear me, we do focus on removing the report of the debt. It can be removed. However, understand it all depends on what you're trying to do. In my opinion, if you're trying to purchase a house and you have that credit card debt, a lot of times that can still hurt you. Yes, we can get it removed, but again, that debt, depending on what you're trying to do, can still affect you.
Right. So what Trevor's saying, long story short, it can be removed from the report, but you still do owe that debt. So hypothetically, I get rogue, I get missing on Capital One. That's an open account. I get it removed off my credit report. If I go back to Capital One and try to open up a line of credit with them, they're probably going to tell me no. All right. The example I could give, that's like I cheat on a girl, okay? I go out and I find a new girlfriend and I come back next year and I say, I want a relationship. She's going to be like, hold up, you cheated on me before. So she's probably going to be hesitant to get into a new relationship with me after I've already burnt them from the prior relationship.
And also that's going to affect, again, you moving forward in new relationships. So other credit card companies are going to be hesitant in opening up lines in your name or doing business with you. And ultimately, keep in mind, again, just like in the previous videos we talked about, credit cards are one of the most important aspects in growing your credit score. So keep that in mind.
Okay. Any more questions?
Yes. So we have a question from Cardo. When repairing your credit, paying everything on time and stay under the 30%, why is your credit at a standstill or a flat line? I guess when you hit a plateau, how can you move forward?
Okay, so he said number 1, he said he pays the bills on time, correct? Yeah. And he keeps the utilization below 30%. Okay, so just to let you know, paying your bills on time, payment history only accounts for 35% of your credit score, okay? So 1/3 of your credit score is just by paying your bills on time, all right? So you said you've mastered that component. The other component was utilization. Utilization, you said you kept under 30%. That accounts actually, it's funny, we say keep the utilization under 30%, but the utilization also counts for 30% of your credit score, okay? So right there, you have 65% of your credit score being affected, number 1, by payment history, Number two, being affected by utilization. All right. So you have 1/3 of a segment. You still have that other, 45? 45? 35, I'm sorry. Other 35% components that's possibly not being affected, or you're probably not gaining a lot of points in those categories. Those other three categories are going to be length of credit history, okay? That equates for 15% of your credit score. 83 points of your credit score is just about how long have you been in the game. The way I like to explain that is there's a difference between a freshman having an A average versus a senior having an A average. The same way there's a difference between a rookie scoring 20 points per game versus a veteran who's been doing it for 7, 8, 9 years scoring 20 points a game. There's a difference. To be able to have the duration of having the consistency to do something through time creates more value, okay? So what happens is by having a longer credit history, you're creating more credit depth, therefore you're actually getting more point usage out of that particular category. The other category is types of credit, all right? There's actually 3 different types of credit. You have revolving accounts. Those are going to be credit cards, okay? Credit cards are called revolving because they continue forever, and a credit card can outlive you. It revolves from the monthly basis. The second type of account that falls under types of credit is installment accounts, all right? Installment accounts are fixed payment accounts where it has a start date and an ending date. It amortizes, okay? When we say it amortizes, when I borrow that car from Trevor, Trevor lets me borrow a car. He gives me a 5-year loan. It amortizes for 5 years, which means when I first buy that car, day one I owe him $10,000, but as I make payments, a portion of my payment goes towards principal, okay? When we're talking about amortizing of a loan, though, up front, when I first get that loan, majority of my payment is going towards interest, not principal, okay? Towards the end of the loan, when I'm almost getting ready to pay it off, most of my payment is going towards principal and not interest, all right? So what does that tell us? Banks normally make most of their money up front, all right? They're making most of their profit and their gains before they actually wind up getting to paying down the principal of that particular product, okay? Or whatever you're actually purchasing, all right? And the third one is going to be an open-end line of credit. Open-end line of credit is going to be like an American Express charge card, some type of account like that where you have to pay the full balance off every month once you get that statement in the mail. However, normally you have to be a little bit more credit worthy to be able to access that type of open-ended credit card, okay? And the last type is going to be frequency of credit, which equates to 55% of your credit score, 55 points of your credit score, which is 10%. It just is based off of having new credit, okay? Or opening up too much new credit. Keep in mind, if you're opening up a lot of credit, keep in mind that you're shrinking the time that you've had credit, because every time you open up that line of credit, it's showing that you've been in the game a little bit shorter, okay? So you don't want to open up a lot of credit. You want to have long credit depth. Be careful with closing old credit cards or old lines of credit. If it's not financially affecting you, in most cases, you want to keep old trade lines open because you want to show you've been in the game. The example I can give, you want to keep your friends from high school, your friends still as an adult. Because the longer the relationship, the more that person can possibly help you out when you're down, if that makes sense. All right? Are there any more questions?
We do. We have a question from Miss Turner. If you have received several credit collection letters from different places, and the date is from several years ago, and it doesn't show on my report, could the company be fake and or a scam?
Of course. You always want to be careful when you get a collection notice. There's a few pretty much validation checkpoints that any creditor or collection agency has to pretty much abide by when actually giving you what we call that Dunn's letter, all right? So you want to be careful. Whenever you get a collection notice, you want to kind of make sure that, number one, that collection company is licensed in your state. You wouldn't believe how many times people pay collection companies that aren't even licensed in their state. Why? Because they get this scary letter in the mail. The letter says they owe money. And what they do, they want to kind of, correct the problem before it turns into a bigger mess. And what they do, they wind up possibly paying someone who wasn't in the right to collect. Now, let me state this. Just because a collection company contacts you, a lot of times people say, well, I didn't have an agreement with the collection company. Now, collection companies work in certain different segments or certain different categories. They could be working on behalf of the original creditor. They might not have necessarily bought that debt. So there's two different types of debt collectors. There's one who services for a company. So let's say hypothetically, I go sour on a Macy's account. Macy's hires Trevor to be the collection agency for them. All right. Now keep in mind, Macy's is still in possession of the account. However, they just hired Trevor to be the muscle to harass and to collect from me. Keep in mind, Macy's is in the business to sell merchandise. They're not in the business to give you. They're not in the business to open up a whole call center to have people just to harass you and call you for the bills and that you didn't pay with them. All right, it's just not financially feasible for them. What they do, they subcontract this work out to a debt collection agency, and all they're doing is servicing that collection service. Okay, that's scenario one. Scenario two is a debt buyer. A debt buyer is someone who actually buys that debt from the collection agency. So let's say hypothetically, I had a $10,000 repossession or let's say I had a $10,000 credit card with Trevor. I owe him $10,000, okay? I don't pay Trevor. What he does is he contacts a debt collection agency or collection agency, and what they do is they actually purchase the debt from Trevor for pennies on the dollar. So let's say hypothetically we're using 10 cents on the dollar for this particular example. So let's say hypothetically I owe Trevor $10,000. All right. Dan's collection company has bought this debt from Trevor for 10 cents on the dollar. That means they spent $1,000 for my $10,000 debt. Was that a good deal for Dan or is it a bad deal for Dan? It all depends. All right. Because just because Dan bought that debt, does that mean he's going to collect from me? Doesn't mean he's going to collect. So it's a gamble. However, it could be a good gamble or it could be a good positioning because let's say hypothetically, Dan bought that debt from Trevor for $1,000, but it's a $10,000 debt. What is Dan going to do? Dan's going to call me and say, hey, you know what, Andre? I know you owe Trevor $10,000 and, we're an attorney or, we could possibly take you to court. We could do whatever. They can't threaten you. However, they can, they do have leverage to possibly do things to you from a legal standpoint. However, they cannot threaten you. But they bought that debt. And now they can harass me from that debt and try to collect from me. Let's say he comes to me and says, you know what? We'll cut the debt that you owe Trevor in half. Instead of paying the $10,000, we'll take $5,000 on Trevor's behalf. How much did Dan just make for his debt collection company? $4,000. All right. So that's how that works. Now that's with Dan actually being a debt purchaser. He's purchasing that negative debt with the hopes or the gamble or the risk of being able to collect from that particular person. Debt collecting can be a very lucrative business. However, if you don't have the means, the wherewithal, or the fight in you, you might not be able to tussle enough with people who are non-paying to be able to collect those funds. All right. So that breaks down the whole collection notice information. All right. Were there any questions?
Actually, I do have something to add to that. Also, keep in mind, an account can only report on your credit report negatively for 7 years. It's 7 years from the last day of activity. At that point, that account will actually fall off. Now, once the account has fallen off, that doesn't mean that the debt is now vanished or it's vaporized, it no longer exists. The company itself can still call you, they can still write you, they can still send you letters. However, they can no longer report it on your credit report. So sometimes you may receive collection or settlement letters from these companies when the account has already been removed off of your credit report, and they still ultimately are just writing you because, again, that's their only way of being able to try to get you to engage and pay the debt. So if you get those, if you do remember it being on your credit report, simply at this point just do not contact them or engage with them, because you could possibly do yourself damage and allow them to be able to put that information back on your credit report.
Good point. Good point. All right. If you guys got business questions, please put your business questions. If you can hear us, if everything is crystal clear on your end, please press a 1 for me. I just want to make sure that you guys can actually get this audio. I know a few weeks ago we had a little situation with audio. We just want to make sure everything is coming on your end, because I don't know. There's a delay on our end. So please help us out however you can. Actually, tag or share this to 5 people who you think can benefit from this information. Why are you going to be selfish? All right. I look at my team, all right, my Credit 360 team. I do whatever I can to try to empower my team, not just from a business standpoint, but also from a personal standpoint. Why? Because the stronger my team is, the stronger I'm going to be. All right. I even help my team even possibly open up their own businesses. I give them the blueprint. Why? Because I believe we all should have, multiple streams of income. I believe we all should have the capacity to pretty much, control our destiny somewhat. Don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to say that everybody needs to quit their 9 to 5. However, there's nothing wrong with trying to put that tool in place to pretty much leverage yourself, to put yourself in a better position. So that's why I'm here today also. So not only do we're asking you to give us some credit questions, any business credit questions you have, we're giving this information for free. When you come into my office and get a consultation, you're probably going to be paying for this information, all right?
You will be. You will be.
Boss man said you will be paying for this information, all right?
Come see me.
All right? You will be paying. So at the end of the day, we're trying to drop these jewels. We want to help you guys out. It's all out of love. At the end of the day, this is what we do for a living.
And I think you said something very important. We love doing this. Ultimately, this is why we're here. We could be on the phones or doing other things, but ultimately, we do love being able to share this information with you all. If you ever attended one of our workshops, we love to talk about this. We'll talk all day if you let us. So,
all right. So let's talk a little bit about business credit. When we're talking about business credit, anybody who's trying to actually open up a business credit should be one of the vehicles you should be putting a little bit of emphasis in. All right.
why?
Business credit is going to be the lifeline of your business. A lot of times us entrepreneurs, when we're starting off our own business, we're actually leveraging everything with our own personal funds, with our own personal credit. The problem with that is if our business idea, our creation, if all these things don't possibly materialize and they fail, now you put yourself in a financial bind personally. And what happens is now because you're in that personal financial bind, a lot of times you can't achieve the things you need to achieve personally. And therefore your life winds up just being in dismay. So what we want to do is we want to try to help you guys understand the importance of possibly leveraging your business credit. It's a reason why Fortune 500 companies build business credit, and a lot of times these Fortune 500 companies borrow money at large amounts. And the reason why they do that is because they realize they can make more money using other people's money to make more money for themselves. Let me repeat that because I might have said that a little fast for y'all. They realize that they can use other people's money to make more money for themselves. And if you're not thinking about that with anything doing with credit, even on the personal side, you're probably using your credit for all the wrong reasons. Credit is not really meant to buy a house. It's meant to buy a house. Hold on, let me back up. Credit is possibly meant to buy the necessity things you need. However, it might not be needed to buy the $500,000 house when your budget is really on a $200,000 house. Okay? So that's the sweet thing about credit. Having good credit can possibly give you the access to things you really can't afford. I can get things on my credit right now that I possibly can't afford from a revenue generating standpoint. All right? I can possibly get a Lamborghini off the lot. I can get it off the car lot, but can I afford to keep the payment up for the next 5 years, 6 years? Most likely not. All right? So there's a difference. So obtaining something is one thing. Keeping it and maintaining it is something totally different. Think of it from a relationship standpoint. Anybody can start a relationship. Anybody can go on the first date. But tell me when you've gone on that 100th date and you still feel the first way you felt on that first date. All right? So there's a difference when we're talking about that from a relationship standpoint. We have a question?
Yes, we have a question from Mr. Wright. He says there is a frequently asked question people have is, I want a business loan where the company has good cash flow, longevity, etc. Why does the bank need my personal credit history?
Good question. A lot of times the bank defaults to your personal credit history is because a lot of times the business credit profile is not put in line or strong enough for that particular creditor to try to possibly make a credit risk assessment based off of just business credit, okay? And the example I like to give sometimes is, let's say I was getting ready to go on a cruise ship, right? I'm getting ready to go on this boat. I want to make sure that this boat passes inspection, right? You would care that the boat does pass inspection, right?
Pretty important.
All right, pretty important. You think so?
I think so.
Okay, so that's the equivalent to your business possibly pass. You want to make sure the business is legit, all right? So that's the first thing that this lender is doing. They want to make sure the business is legit. That's the equivalent to me making sure that the boat is passing inspection before I get on this boat, all right? However, we are aware that this boat can pass inspection, but we can have a clown or a fool or an imbecile or someone who doesn't care about the quality of life actually steering this ship or directing this boat. So a lot of times, the actual creditor or lender, they want to get a glimpse of seeing, okay, how does the captain of this ship look? Is this captain adequate? How does this captain handle his own personal affairs? Because how he handles his personal affairs might determine how he handles the business affairs or how he handles the affairs of this ship. All right? So don't get me wrong. It's a catch-22 when we're talking about that, because I do know, being in the credit space, I know some people who do take care of the ship. But when you look at them from a personal standpoint, it's a mess. All right? So keep in mind, from a risk lending standpoint, a lender is giving you money looking at risk. They're not looking at how much money they can make. Well, they are looking at how much money they can make. However, before they look at how much money they can make, how risky is it? All right? How risky is it putting this money in that person's hand? So yes, most creditors are going to possibly want to look at your business credit until the business, most creditors are going to look at your personal credit initially up front until the business credit is put in line. And it's a catch-22. It's gotten to the point where when we fill out credit applications as Credit 360, we feel that we put the business credit profile in place enough and is strong enough to where they ask for my personal Social Security number. I leave that information blank. All right. Majority of the time, we don't have issues with lenders and creditors with me leaving that section blank. Why? Because the business credit profile is strong enough to handle its own weight. Okay. Neither here nor there, but that's how that goes. I hope that answers your question.
I think it's still pretty important to know. Just like with personal credit, it isn't just a wave the magic wand scenario over. It is. It's like a tree. It does take time to grow. It's just like a child, a baby. Initially, that child needs help walking. After the child grows and gets stronger, that child is able to walk on its own. And so that's basically what happens with your business credit. As it grows, you're able to now support. It's able to now support itself, and there's no, I guess, for lack of a better term, cosigner needed.
Correct. All right. So yeah. So even just to piggyback on that real quick, be careful, because when they're asking for your personal Social Security number, most likely you're personally guaranteeing that loan also. So for those of you guys who were on last week, you kind of heard the story of when I had my mortgage company. I actually, this is back in 2007. Everything was good. Money was good. I personally guaranteed for a copy machine for my mortgage company. All right. 2009, the recession. Now I signed for it 2007. 2009, the recession hit. I shut down my mortgage company. 2012, I forgot even I had a mortgage company trying to live life. And then I had a process server knock on my door to serve me because I was being sued for a $30,000 copier. All right. And I was like flipping. I'm like, it ain't my copier. I didn't sign for it. That was Credit 360. I mean, that was the mortgage company's copier. But when I actually looked at the contract and we actually scaled down the paperwork after I was in court, that's when I found out when I was in court that I didn't have a leg to stand on. I had personally guaranteed as Andre Coakley, the president of my mortgage company, that if anything were to go defunct financially with this business, that I would personally guarantee it. Okay? Keep in mind, it's not the way you really want to build your business. I tell no one to, and going back to the whole captain of the ship, only in the movies do we hear that the captain sinks with his ship. In real life, if you ever have a business, I never want you to sink with your business. I want you to dump that business, pick up your pants, wipe your tears, and find another business to open up. All right, but there's no reason why you should ever sink with your ship. You should always have some exit strategy where you're not personally liable for everything that your business is possibly signing for. So you don't want to have that noose or that anchor around your neck when that ship sinks, because you're going to go down with it.
And that's why it's so important to have business credit. Simply put, it's capital preservation. And if the ship does go down, you want to still be able to survive and live for your family. So it is definitely important.
All right, so we're going to jump back on the personal side, personal credit. Miss Kimberlin asked, I had a foreclosure on an 80-20 mortgage. The first mortgage wrote off theirs. The junior mortgage is still in place, and they've been calling me. What's the best course of action?
Normally, and that's a good question. You had 80-20. The first four, the 80, they wind up going away. The 20, they wind up hanging on. The best course of action is normally to settle on that account. Now keep in mind, there's no collateral involved at this point, most likely, because did she say she lost the foreclosure? Did she have the property?
Had a foreclosure on an 80-20.
Okay, so the collateral is no longer there. Okay, the collateral has been seized. So don't get me wrong. It's a catch-22 because it's a second mortgage. Number one, the collateral is not there. All right. So with that being said, they're not in position to really have to repossess anything. The negative side of that is it's still most likely reporting on your credit. So if it's still reporting on your credit, and I don't know too many people who are still paying on a second mortgage that they're no longer living in that property in. I don't know too many people. Not to say that that's not possible. However, with that being said, is if you have that second mortgage, the best option is to try to settle on it. We've had a few clients. I had a client the other day. She had like almost I'm gonna say like $90,000 second mortgage. All right, and she was in the same situation. She lost her property to foreclosure. She had the second mortgage still reporting on her credit report, but her lender was willing to settle on the settle on that account for only $9,000, 10 cents on the dollar. The reason why they're able to do that, because really they're only destroying this lady's credit, and if she didn't really care about her credit, she didn't really have to pay for this account. I'm not gonna say she didn't really have to pay. There wouldn't have been any real gains for her having to pay for this account. Okay. However, from the lending standpoint, people are like, "Whoa, why would they take only $9,000 for $90,000?" Because they didn't really have a leg to stand on. They didn't really have anything. The only thing they had was reporting string. All right, is to keep reporting this information on her credit report. Keep in mind, the average person who has a $90,000 second mortgage, they're very concerned with paying that second mortgage. Why? Because they're trying to keep the roof over their head. But keep in mind, in this particular segment or situation, the house has already been foreclosed on. So I would tell you, the best thing to possibly do is try to settle on that account and settle super cheap. Super cheap. Actually, it's some of the most advantageous settlements I have seen have been in somebody who's lost a property through foreclosure. The first mortgage is gone, and only that second mortgage is sitting there all by itself in position. All right? So I would most definitely tell you, try to negotiate some type of settlement, see where they are. But if you have any questions or concerns on how to handle that, feel free to inbox me or give us a call at the office, please. You have a question?
Yes, we have a question from Miss Williams. I currently have a credit score in the low 600s. What's the quickest way to build my credit?
Okay, you have scores in the low 600s. And the low 600s is not that bad. Okay, low 600s let you know is probably going to have you in the D plus, C minus. I'm not saying that it's good. However, what I'm trying to say is you're not off the Richter scale. So there are some components of your credit that are in line and that are somewhat achieving what they need to be achieving. The problem is I don't know what components that you're lagging or you're missing, okay? But I'll just break down the credit score in one more quick time so you kind of, see exactly what components you probably are missing. All right, so 35% of your credit score, or 193 points, are going to be based off of strictly your payment history, paying your bills on time. Are you paying your bills before that 30-day past due mark, okay? So that's going to be the most important thing. The second aspect of it, is going to be debt and available credit. All right? Which is your utilization. Your utilization accounts for 165 points of your credit score. Okay? So that means of how much of your total available credit are you using. So let's say hypothetically I have a $1,000 credit card, I have a $1,000 balance, I'm using 100% utilization. That is not good from a credit standpoint. That tells my lenders, that tells the credit bureaus, everybody that Andre's broke. He only had access to $1,000 and he borrowed the whole $1,000, okay? A 50% utilization is when I have a credit line of $1,000, but I'm only using $500. That's 50%. So whatever amount or dollar amount of that trade line that I'm using is going to equate to a percentage. That percentage is going to be that utilization rate for that particular credit card or that particular line of credit or so on, all right? The other category is going to be length of credit. 83 points or 15% of your credit score is based off of length of credit history. How long have you been in the game? Having a long credit profile, when I say long, or a long history of a credit profile is going to give you more points in that segment versus having a shorter history. Then the next category is going to be types of credit, which equates to 10% of your credit score or 55 points. Revolving installment, open-end lines of credit. You need to have, and mortgage, you need to have all three of those types of credit to be able, or four types of credit to be able to kind of maximize that particular segment. And frequency of new credit or credit inquiries. Having a lot of credit inquiries are going to ding away that 55-point segment. The more inquiries you have, the least amount of points you get for that particular segment. Okay? So I hope that little recap helps you understand what you can possibly do to scale your credit score down or scale it up. All right? Hopefully you're scaling it up and not scaling it down. All right?
Since we it doesn't look like we have any more questions right now. So since we're on inquiries and we get this a lot, for you all out there that have a lot of inquiries on your credit report, you've been shopping around for a car specifically. Understand when you're shopping around for an auto loan or a mortgage loan, because the whole nature of those, the whole idea of that is to shop you around to find the lowest interest rate. No matter how many times they run your credit report, as long as it's within a 14-day window, again, house or car, it only hits your credit score as one inquiry. So if you go to an auto dealership and they run your credit toward across 20 lenders to see who can give you the best interest rate, understand you will see all 20 inquiries on your credit report because it's a fingerprint to let you know who's been checking your credit. But you only lost points as though it was one inquiry. So again, house and mortgage, understand the inquiries will add up, but as long as that's done within a 14-day window, you're only going to lose points as though it's one inquiry.
Good point. All right. Any business credit questions out there? Any personal questions? If you have any questions, share this video. Please don't be selfish with this. If you can bring somebody along with you, why not bring them along with you? I can honestly say, and it was funny because when I first started off my business, I kind of felt like I need to do everything on my own. I felt like, this is my pulse, this is my brand, this was me. But as time went on, I realized I needed support and cash. I couldn't do it on my own. I couldn't tell you where my business wouldn't be without Trevor right now. I can honestly say that. I can say that in front of Trevor and I can say it publicly, all right? I can say I don't know where my business would be if Dan didn't help out my business. The reason why I say that, because everybody plays a certain component with this whole machine. And one weak link in this whole machine possibly has some type of mechanical failure, all right? So we don't want to have failure. We don't want you to have failure. That's the reason why I'm taking my time to help you guys out. But what I'm trying to tell you in the long run is you need to have other people who might be able to push you to your goals. They might have a skill set that's a little bit sharper than yours. It's funny, there's certain aspects that we know Trevor achieves, better than me. And what I do, I go to Trevor with those particular aspects, like, Trevor, this is what you got to do. This is what I need you to handle for me. And it's not out of, it's not out of pride. If it were a prideful thing, it would be something that wouldn't be done.
It wouldn't work.
It wouldn't work.
It would not work.
All right. But even be careful when you're actually trying to get business partners, when you're starting your partnership. Don't necessarily get people who think just like you. You might get someone who thinks the direct opposite of you. There's no reason for you to have, like a basketball team that's lacking a center should not have 2 point guards. You need to go fill the position that you're probably not lacking versus trying to stockpile on one particular position. So what I'm trying to say is you need to be versatile. You need to be finding people from different walks. As you see, Credit 360, we are a multi-ethnic company. Why are we multi-ethnic? Why? Because we touch multi-ethnicities. And we know that people tend to deal with what they feel comfortable with, and sometimes people tend to feel comfortable with people who look like them and act like them. In some races, some ethnicities, we know that people don't even want to deal with people who look like them or act like them. All right? So what I'm trying to say is you got to be a chameleon in this space. You have to kind of, wear different hats. You might have to serve different purposes. But ultimately, you want to build a team and you want to get people around you and make sure that they're sharpening and homing in on their skill sets. And not just being like, I want Credit 360 to stand out. I don't want to stand out in Credit 360. All of us play our certain roles. And at the end of the day, if I were to pull out certain pieces, even simple pieces of the process, the machine would not work.
It's just like the body. You have your arms, you have your legs, you have your fingers, you have your head. The head is as important as the head is. The head would be nothing without its back. As essential as the back is, the back will be nothing without legs. So ultimately, again, you do have different parts, and each part is shaped differently, it's colored differently, but it brings a unique perspective, and ultimately without that part, there is no body.
Yeah, and I can tell you my business, or our business, started exceeding other levels when we started collaborating with other people.
Absolutely. It's a whole nother level, actually.
At one point, we were kind of, you kind of feel like when you're starting off a business, it's my baby. You don't want to let anybody touch your baby. You understand? But imagine when you think of a child. Imagine if a child is spending time with someone who speaks English, someone who speaks Spanish, someone who speaks Japanese. At the end of the day, they're going to pick up so many different cultures and possibly that much more diverse out there in the world. All right? So, be that chameleon. Be out there and touch all these particular aspects of the business and be able to bring people along to help your business grow.
And also always be evaluating what's missing. That's actually one of the things I've learned working with Andre over the last 13 years is always be on the lookout for what's missing. What can be added or what can be replaced? What can be taken to the next level? Always evaluate. Always see where you can get better. Always evaluate what's working and the things that aren't working. Maybe some things need to be tuned up. Some things may need to be wound down, but always be on the evaluation.
Yeah, good point. This whole business idea is a continuous motion. There's no such thing as being still. It's like saying the ocean being still. You'll never see the ocean being still. There's always going to be movement. And even the same thing with business. There's been much where we've hit high numbers. There's much we've been like, where are all the clients at? Where are all the customers at? What's going on? But all that's always steady tweaking something, changing something, just finding a particular way to break through that particular issue and get ourselves to the next level. I think Dan has another question.
Yes, we have one from Miss Justine. What if your credit score goes up in Equifax, but doesn't go up in TransUnion? Why would it do that?
All right, good question. The reason why is because not every creditor reports to every bureau, and not every bureau has all the information on you. So the example I like to think of, think of your three best friends, right? Your three best friends. These are the people who know the most about you, right? These three best friends know you, but they all know you in a different way. Best friend A might know you more about relationships, but he knows nothing about how much money you make. Person B might be good for talking about finances. They know how much money you make, but they have no idea about your relationship. Person C might just be that fun person. that every time you go out with that person, you have a great time, but yet you could not talk about your finances or you couldn't talk about relationships with this person. All right. So what I'm trying to say is everybody suits a certain purpose in your life, and it's a big web. Everybody doesn't know everybody. This friend might not know this friend, but this friend knows this friend, but this friend doesn't know this friend. So getting back to the credit aspect, you might have a negative account that's showing on Equifax, but not showing on TransUnion. So that particular negative account would be bringing down Equifax, but not affecting TransUnion at all. Why? Because TransUnion doesn't know of that negative relationship. Or vice versa. Let's say it's a positive relationship. That positive relationship could be showing on TransUnion, therefore pushing up that TransUnion score, but it's not reporting on Equifax, therefore Equifax score is not being actually affected because it knows nothing of that relationship or it doesn't see that trade line.
And the reason being is because the creditors themselves, the companies that you've done business with, are actually responsible for paying each bureau to report your information. So that's why sometimes you'll look at your credit report and let's say it's an account, I don't know, Sears. You may look at the credit report and Sears is reporting on your Experian and your TransUnion credit report, but it's blank under the Equifax column. That's simply because Sears, for that particular account, they don't report to Equifax. So because they're not paying Equifax to report your information, it'll be level.
Good point, good point. All right. So it's a big web out there. Everybody doesn't see what everybody's doing. And everybody rates you differently. So, for example, there are other reasons why you have 3 different credit scores because everybody sees you differently, right? Okay. So, use me for an example, all right? I can say, you know what? I'm a good-looking guy, right? But then another female could come and say, you know what? Andre, he's an all right looking guy. And then another female could come and be like, Andre, he's butt ugly. I don't know who would even deal with him. He's an ugly dude. What I'm trying to say is, it's not only how good you look, it's also how good the viewer thinks you look. So that's the reason why you have 3 different credit scores. I could take Beyonce, for example. I say Beyonce is a good-looking woman. Trevor looks at it. He says she's all right. Dan looks at it and says, you know what, Andre, I don't even like African-American women. All right? And I'm not saying to say it from a prejudice standpoint. I'm just saying it's just not his forte. It's just not his cup of tea.
His taste. Yeah.
It's not his taste. So even from a lending or banking standpoint, banks and lenders have their taste. They have their cup of tea. They have the flavors that they like. There's just some flavors they don't care for. Okay? So the same thing happens from a relationship standpoint, happens from a lending standpoint.
And sometimes it has nothing to absolutely do with you. Sometimes that lender, sometimes a person may have a 780 credit score and apply for a credit card, and they already have credit cards. The utilizations are perfect, and they get denied. It's not that person, not that they have a bad credit score or bad credit report. That particular lender may see that person as, okay, you already may just simply have too much. So again, it is, in a sense, it's a beauty contest. It doesn't necessarily mean you're a bad person. You just don't fit that particular lender's taste, if you will.
That's a good analogy, a beauty contest, because like everybody at the beauty contest is supposed to be beautiful, right? They went through some type of contest to get to the beauty contest, right? But when we go there and the woman is selected, there is always a population to be like, she's not beautiful.
I don't know how she won.
You understand? All right. So at the end of the day, it is a beauty contest. From a credit standpoint, they are trying to look at how beautiful you are. However, what is beautiful to someone or what is good credit to one might not be good to another. Or just like Trevor said, your credit could be too good for someone. All right. Why? A bank might be concerned that your credit score is too high. And people say, well, why would a bank be mad that your credit score is too high? Why? Because they probably can't charge a high enough interest rate to make enough money off of you. They'd rather take those funds and invest it to someone who has bad credit and make 3 to 4 times as much money on it versus giving that money to someone who has good credit. Why? Because the interest rate is going to most likely be low because you have good credit. They're not going to tax you from an interest standpoint. And then the other standpoint of it is that, that if they're charging you that interest, that it can be most definitely you're moving backwards.
And not only that, keep in mind, if you're if you're in that position and you're responsible with your utilization, you're not even using a lot of the principal as well. So there's really nothing that they're making off of you. And some of you even allow that card to sit on your credit report and not use it for months at a time, just leaving it open. So again, they can see that's how you are with your other credit cards, which is a good way to use them. But ultimately now they're saying, that other company is saying, you know what, I'm not going to make any money off of this person. It's a waste of my time.
Exactly. So, and just keep in mind while we're on it, because we're getting ready to wrap up, and I just want to, while we're talking about credit, credit is meant to have, not to be used. All right. Credit should only be used for two reasons. Number one, emergencies, real emergencies. You know, death in the family, your car breaks down, you need to put a roof on your house, a family member's in the hospital, we need to help donate towards a funeral. Those are real emergencies, all right? The second reason is to use their money to make more money for yourself, all right? That's using their money as a business line of credit, even though it might be in your personal name. At the end of the day, when I say business line of credit, using their money to support whatever you need to do temporarily to try to make more money for yourself. Please do not use your credit to buy all the things that social media, society, all these luxury items, Gucci slippers, Rolex watches. Credit is not for that. Credit is really strictly for emergency purposes. Please don't get caught up in that shuffle of thinking that you're going to get your credit in line to buy all this mess.
And don't think because you don't need credit now, it's not important to maintain good credit now, because eventually, and normally what happens, and we see it all the time, the person comes in our office with roughly about a 120-day window. They need to get something done, purchase a house, purchase a car, and now all of a sudden it becomes prevalent. If they had just sometimes in a lot of cases, just a few different practices, use a few different practices, they would be in a different situation. So again, you always want to stay conscious of it, because you never know when you may need it.
Perfect. Was there one more question, or are we done?
That's it.
All right, cool. All right. Please share this video, guys. I keep begging y'all. Why y'all gonna let me beg? Why would y'all let a brother beg you?
Please
share this video. Please. Tag somebody. I'm watching. I see who's watching this. I'm gonna watch and see who's tagging, who's sharing. No, I'm just playing with you. But at the end of the day, I'm just trying to say, help me help somebody else, or let me help you help somebody else.
You don't want to be the only person in your circle with good credit. You don't want to be the only person in your circle balling. So this is the way you make it happen. Share this video. 5 people, 10 people, 20 people, however many people you think may need this information.
And actually, you can buy the block back with you and your friends. So let's say you got 10 homeboys, 10 homegirls, 10 associates, 10 people, whoever, 10 people who just want to act in the same common goal. Let's say you were to take these people, right, and you guys were to work on your credit and get to the point where you guys can actually acquire at least $35,000 a piece in credit cards or lines of credit. So now you take these 10 friends who you actually help acquire $35,000 worth of credit, and you guys actually pull out all this credit together, and you guys go and you actually buy a $350,000 house, cash, right? So you've actually taken this money, all 10 people working together, take this $35,000 times 10, $350,000, your average nice house down here in Miami, Florida. You could possibly buy 3 or 4 houses in Georgia with it. All right. But what I'm trying to say is, if you do that and you guys purchase that property, and you guys can find a property that you're possibly buying less than the value, it has equity in it, you can possibly actually get that property and flip it and start putting yourself in position to actually be using other people's money to make more money for yourself. Now keep in mind, as an individual, you probably couldn't afford that property all by yourself. And you probably couldn't do it all by yourself. However, it doesn't necessarily even take 10 individuals. You might be able to accomplish this with only 4 individuals. You might be able to accomplish it with 3 individuals. All right? You might be able to accomplish this and not even need to use all 35,000. You might be able to find something on a smaller scale. We have people who do this and they flip vehicles. They don't go and buy $350,000 houses. They got their credit together and they borrowed $3,500, go to the car dealership or go to the car auction, buy a small car, put some work, a few $1,000s of work into it, and sell that car on the secondary market and make $3,000 or $4,000 a month to actually, you know, create their monthly revenue. Now imagine if you did that for 10 cars per year. That could be additional $50,000 worth of revenue you have just by using other people's money to make more money for yourself. All right?
And simply put, this is what the most affluent sector does all the time. You know, take any millionaire, for example. They got $20 million in the bank. They want to go build a hotel off of St. Croix, off the coast of St. Croix. They take that $20 million in the bank and leave it there, go to the bank and get a loan for $20 million. When it's time for them to make the payment back, they're making the payment back using the interest that's being paid on the $20 million that's still sitting in the bank. How much of their own money did they use? Not a penny. So again, having credit, it goes beyond just the surface of it. It is literally how you're able to, like Andre says, take your life to the next level, and ultimately your business and everything else that you want to do with yourself.
All right. We're gonna get off our soapbox because we'll be here all day talking to y'all. And
I told you we love to do this.
And I can see y'all rolling your eyes through the Facebook Live and like when they gonna finish. All right, we shutting down, but we just care about y'all. So long story short, I'm gonna say it again. I'm gonna beg y'all again. Tag 5 people. Share it to 5 people. Just help us, help you, help them. That's all we're asking for. All right. We appreciate you guys coming out, hanging out with us.
Thank you for joining us again.
We're actually going to be doing this every other Wednesday. So the next Wednesday we'll actually be live is
June.
June 6th.
June 6th.
June 6th.
June
all right?
6th.
We'll be going live June 6th. We'll be doing this every other Wednesday. Dropping these jewels for you. If there's any topics that you guys want us to discuss, if there's anything, please inbox us. Drop it in the comment section. We do read all the comments. If you have any questions or concerns, please reach out to us. We are a friendly, family-based company.
We love y'all.
We use the word love a lot around here, and I don't think y'all like the word love because, you know, some of us are haters. All right? Y'all like, let's love each other. Let's be a loving.
Love y'all.
They don't like that.
Love y'all.
They want you got to hand sanitize your hand. You need hand sanitizer now.
When I see people in the street, that's the hand you was kissing.
All right. So, no, we're signing out. We love y'all. We appreciate y'all hanging out with us.
Thank y'all for tuning in. Appreciate it.
Credit 360. We love helping good people with bad credit.
President Andre Coakley, Vice President Trevor Williams. We love y'all. Peace.